crime that shocked America. Two brothers accused of ending their parents' lives in brutal circumstances. What happened in the luxurious Beverly Hills mansion? Money, power, or perhaps desperation? Stay with us to uncover the full story of the Menendez brothers. Jose Menendez was a self-made man. Born in Cuba, he emigrated to the United States with a dream of building a better life. Through hard work, intelligence, and ambition, he climbed the corporate ladder, eventually becoming a top executive in the entertainment industry. His success brought immense wealth, allowing him to provide his family with a lifestyle most could only dream of. Kitty Menendez, his wife, was a devoted mother and a former beauty queen who had given up her career to focus on raising their two sons. She played the role of a supportive wife and loving parent, ensuring her family was always presented as polished and perfect. Together, they built an image of the ideal American family, wealthy, successful, and close-knit. Their home in Beverly Hills was a symbol of their achievements. A sprawling mansion in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods, it featured luxurious furnishings, a swimming pool, and a constant air of affluence. Lyle, the older son, was the confident and charismatic leader of the two brothers, while Erik, the younger one, was more reserved and sensitive, with aspirations of becoming a professional tennis player. To outsiders, the Menendez family appeared to have it all: love, money, and an enviable lifestyle. They were the embodiment of the American dream. But behind the picture-perfect facade lay unspoken tensions and secrets that would eventually unravel in the most tragic way possible. On the evening of August 19, 1989, the tranquility of Beverly Hills was shattered by a gruesome discovery. In the luxurious Menendez mansion, the bodies of Jose and Kitty Menendez were found in the living room, both brutally killed. Jose had been shot multiple times at close range, including a fatal wound to the back of his head. Kitty's body showed signs of a desperate struggle. She had been shot repeatedly, indicating a prolonged and violent attack. The scene was nothing short of horrific. Blood spattered across the room, shattered glass, and overturned furniture told the story of a chaotic and violent event. The precision and ferocity of the attack suggested to investigators that this was no random act of violence. Shortly after the killings, the police received a frantic 911 call from Lyle Menendez. In the recording, his voice was filled with panic and distress as he screamed, "Someone hurt my parents." The call painted the brothers as devastated sons who had just discovered the brutal murder of their parents. However, the police found several details that raised suspicions. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the attackers may have been known to the victims. Additionally, the murder weapons, two 12-gauge shotguns, were nowhere to be found. The carefully orchestrated nature of the crime left investigators questioning whether the attack was the result of an outside intruder or something much closer to home. As the investigation began, the initial narrative of a home invasion was challenged by inconsistencies in the brothers' behavior and timeline. What seemed at first like a tragic and random crime would soon unravel into one of the most sensational cases in American history. In the weeks following the brutal murders of Jose and Kitty Menendez, Lyle and Erik's actions began to draw attention. Instead of mourning quietly, as many would expect, the brothers seemed to embrace a life of luxury and excess. They spent vast sums of money, purchasing expensive cars, designer clothing, and lavish vacations. Lyle, the older brother, splurged on a Rolex watch, a Porsche, and a restaurant in Princeton, New Jersey, where he had previously attended university. Erik, meanwhile, continued to pursue his tennis career, hiring professional coaches and traveling extensively for tournaments. Together, they moved into luxury condominiums in Marina del Rey, maintaining a lifestyle that was not just comfortable but ostentatious. Their behavior did not go unnoticed. Friends and acquaintances expressed surprise at how quickly the brothers seemed to recover from the loss of their parents. Instead of the solemnity expected of grieving sons, Lyle and Erik appeared carefree, even jovial at times. They were frequently spotted dining in expensive restaurants, attending exclusive parties and mingling with the elite. What puzzled many was their sudden access to seemingly endless wealth. Though their father's fortune was significant, questions arose about how the brothers were funding their extravagant spending. They began to raise suspicions not only among friends but also among law enforcement, who were closely watching their every move. The media also began to take notice. Stories of the brothers' flashy lifestyle painted them as spoiled heirs, further fueling public interest in the case. What seemed at first like an odd reaction to tragedy slowly turned into a key point in the investigation. Was their lavish spending a coping mechanism, or was it the behavior of two young men who believed they had gotten away with the ultimate crime? As the brothers continued to enjoy their newfound freedom, detectives began to connect the dots, scrutinizing their actions in the days and weeks following the murders. The carefree lifestyle they embraced was a stark contrast to the horrific crime scene they had left behind, and it would become a critical piece of the puzzle as the investigation progressed. For weeks, the investigation into the Menendez murders seemed to stall. Detectives were faced with a brutal crime scene but no clear suspects. However, the behavior of Lyle and Erik Menendez continued to raise eyebrows. Their extravagant spending, lack of visible grief, and conflicting statements about their whereabouts on the night of the murders hinted at deeper involvement. The breakthrough came when Erik Menendez, burdened by guilt, confided in his therapist, Dr. Jerome Oziel. During a series of sessions, Erik revealed shocking details about the crime. He confessed that he and his brother Lyle had been the ones to pull the triggers that ended their parents' lives. Dr. Oziel, shaken by the confession, recorded these sessions as evidence. The recordings provided investigators with crucial insight into the brothers' motives and the events leading up to the murders. In these sessions, Erik described a deeply dysfunctional family dynamic. According to his account, he and Lyle had endured years of emotional and physical abuse at the hands of their father, Jose. Erik claimed their mother, Kitty, had been complicit, either ignoring or enabling the abuse. The brothers reportedly believed their parents were planning to disown them, which, coupled with the years of trauma, created a volatile mix of fear, anger, and desperation. However, Dr. Oziel's decision to involve law enforcement was not immediate. Initially, he only confided in his mistress, Judalon Smith, about Erik's confession. Fearing for his own safety, Oziel eventually turned over the tapes to the police, marking a turning point in the case. The recordings provided irrefutable evidence linking the brothers to the crime. Armed with this new information, investigators began to piece together a timeline that painted Lyle and Erik as the perpetrators. They discovered that the brothers had purchased the shotguns used in the murders weeks before the crime. They also uncovered evidence of a deliberate attempt to stage the crime scene as a home invasion, including the removal of the weapons and the absence of forced entry. The arrests came as a shock to the public. Up until this point, Lyle and Erik had been portrayed as grieving sons. Their sudden capture turned the case into a media sensation, with every detail of their privileged lives and alleged abuse becoming fodder for national headlines. As the trial loomed, the revelations from Erik's therapy sessions became central to the prosecution's case. The tapes not only exposed the brothers' role in the murders, but also set the stage for the battle between the defense's claims of abuse and the prosecution's assertion of greed as the primary motive. The Menendez case was no longer just a story of murder. It became a story of family, trauma, and the darker side of wealth and privilege. The trial of Lyle and Erik Menendez began in 1993 and quickly captivated the nation. It was one of the first high-profile cases to be broadcast on live television, turning the courtroom into a stage for a gripping drama that blurred the lines between justice and spectacle. The trial wasn't just about determining guilt. It became a deep dive into the inner workings of a family torn apart by wealth, power, and secrets. The defense, led by Leslie Abramson, presented a shocking narrative. Lyle and Erik, they argued, were not cold-blooded murderers but victims of years of abuse at the hands of their father, Jose. The brothers testified in harrowing detail about the physical, emotional, and sexual abuse they allegedly endured, describing their father as a tyrant who controlled every aspect of their lives. They also painted their mother, Kitty, as unstable and complicit, often turning a blind eye to her husband's actions while lashing out at her sons in fits of anger and despair. Abramson argued that the brothers acted out of fear and desperation, believing their parents were planning to kill them to prevent the abuse from being exposed. According to the defense, the murders were not premeditated but a tragic culmination of years of torment. The courtroom was transfixed as Lyle and Erik broke down on the stand, their emotional testimonies polarizing the public and jury alike. The prosecution, however, offered a starkly different narrative. They dismissed the abuse allegations as a fabrication designed to garner sympathy. Instead, they focused on the brothers' financial motives, highlighting their extravagant spending in the aftermath of the murders. Prosecutors argued that Lyle and Erik were greedy, entitled young men who killed their parents to inherit the family fortune. They pointed to the pre-purchase of the murder weapons, the careful planning, and the calculated effort to stage the crime scene as evidence of premeditation. The trial exposed the Menendez family's darkest secrets, drawing intense media scrutiny. Public opinion was divided, with some viewing the brothers as victims of unimaginable trauma and others as ruthless killers exploiting their privilege. The jury was equally conflicted. After months of testimony, the first trial ended in two deadlocked juries, unable to reach a unanimous verdict. In 1996, the brothers faced a retrial, but this time the proceedings were markedly different. The judge limited the defense's ability to present evidence of abuse, narrowing the focus to the murders themselves. Without the emotional weight of their earlier testimonies, the defense struggled to counter the prosecution's narrative. In the end, the second jury convicted Lyle and Erik Menendez of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The verdict came with a harsh sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. The brothers were sent to separate prisons, where they would serve their sentences far apart from one another. The outcome left many questions unanswered. Were Lyle and Erik victims driven to a desperate act by years of abuse, or were they calculating murderers who manipulated the system for their gain? The case became a flashpoint for discussions about abuse, privilege, and the American justice system, ensuring its place in the annals of true crime history. The Menendez brothers case remains one of the most controversial and discussed legal battles in American history. Decades after their convictions, the story continues to captivate audiences, inspiring debates, documentaries, and even dramatized adaptations that explore the intricate layers of family, trauma, and justice. For many, the case is a symbol of the excesses of privilege. The Menendez brothers, born into wealth and opportunity, were seen as emblematic of a generation that felt entitled to everything, even at the cost of their parents' lives. Their extravagant spending after the murders became a focal point, reinforcing the narrative of greed and entitlement. However, others see the brothers as victims of a system that failed to protect them. The allegations of abuse, though heavily scrutinized and debated, highlighted the often hidden realities of family violence, even in households that appear perfect from the outside. Advocates for survivors of abuse have used the case to draw attention to the long-term psychological impacts of trauma and the lengths to which victims might go when they feel there is no escape. The media's role in shaping public perception of the case cannot be overstated. The live broadcasts of the trials turned the courtroom into a theater, with millions of viewers forming opinions based on soundbites and headlines. The sensational nature of the case, wealth, murder, family secrets, made it a staple of true crime reporting, but it also raised questions about the fairness of high-profile trials conducted under the glare of public scrutiny. Over the years, the brothers have become cultural figures in their own right. In prison, they have led relatively quiet lives, participating in educational and support programs and maintaining contact with supporters and family members. Both Lyle and Erik married while incarcerated, and their relationships have added another layer of intrigue to their story. The case has also remained relevant in pop culture. From documentaries and books to podcasts and TV series, the Menendez story has been retold and re-examined countless times. Most recently, the Netflix series Monsters, the Erik and Lyle Menendez story reignited interest, introducing the case to a new generation and sparking fresh discussions about justice and morality. Despite their convictions, Lyle and Erik have maintained their innocence regarding the financial motive, insisting that their actions were a response to years of abuse. This claim continues to divide public opinion. Some believe the brothers' version of events, arguing that the abuse allegations should have been given more weight in court. Others remain skeptical, viewing their testimony as a strategic move to garner sympathy. The Menendez case has left a lasting legacy in both the legal and cultural spheres. It challenges perceptions of wealth and privilege, explores the complexities of familial relationships, and raises difficult questions about how society balances justice with compassion. To this day, it remains a haunting reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and even the most glamorous lives can hide unimaginable darkness.